All right, all right, all right. You know what time it is. It's Monday night. Welcome to the Counselor's Corner. I'm your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor, and joining me as my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis. Well, yeah, might be in trouble tonight. Might be in trouble tonight with that how. Um, but no worries about the panel. It will be what it will be. If you want in, you know what to do. So, okay, so moving on to tonight, November 18th, we will be covering the topic Behind the Mask, uncovering hidden insecurities. Did y'all know that about 85% of people struggle with insecurities? Probably not. Most people say, nah, I'm good. I'm all that. you know, and whether it's something small, minor, it's still could be a struggle. And remember, I always say little things lead to big things. So it could be something that starts off small but ends up gigantic, especially if it never gets addressed. Okay, these hidden fears drive behaviors impacting relationships, mental health, and success. Join our conversation as we explore the truth about insecurities and uncover strategies for transformation. We will take a look at causes of insecurity driven behaviors, how insecurities influence behaviors, and overcoming insecurity driven behaviors. This should be an insightful, heart penetrating conversation that you don't want to miss. Please like and share our video, and don't forget to tell an X to subscribe to the you. Don't forget to tell an X to tell an X. Now that's a lot going on, but if you just reach out to them, and they might say, "What the fuck you reaching out to me for?" But got to cover all bases. So don't forget to tell an X to tell an X to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Controversial Counselor. All right, all right. We sitting at about 927 subs, 73 away as we inch closer and closer to 1K. Uh, so please be a part of our upcoming success and in any future success. So here we are tonight, um, Monday, November 18th. Before I pass the mic on to Herb, I want to send a shout out to my cousin. It's her birthday. Was her heavenly birthday. Kenyatta Hamilton. Rest in peace, baby girl. It's been 9 years since you've been gone, but you were such an integral part of our family. I'm 10 years older than you, and I know I was one of the people that would just make you just crack up, and everybody, the family would get so upset because they were like, he is not that funny. But no matter what I said, she would crack up, and I miss her laughter. I miss her, like when I made a post last night, her brash cuss outs, because anybody could get it. She'd cuss you the hell out. But you were like, damn. And just overall her silliness, and like I said, it's not a time that we all don't come together, that we don't reminisce about you, and we just wish you here. But rest easy. That's it. Before I get too emotional, because that was one of the ones that was a heartfelt death. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because Thanksgiving is coming up, and my sister's youngest one that just transitioned last year, her birthday is the 26th. So it's always around this time of the year that I start to get reflective about her life and her children that she's left behind. So you know, um, like they say, death is only a heartbeat away. And we all going there. There's no escaping. It's just like taxes. So my heartfelt um you know joy with you as much as possible. What I always tell people is don't stay there. You have a tragedy that hits you, embrace it. And And I'm borrow the line from the movie, the bucket list. Find the joy in life and keep moving forward. And take them with you. Take their memory with you. You know, just because they're not here physically doesn't mean that they're not with you. So you know, talk about them. Talk about them often because the more you do that, at least for me, the more it allows me to process. You know, what has happened, what's going to happen, and all the good things that's still going to come.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You can definitely capture their importance, the things that they said, how they touched your life. So it's always constant memories of conversations that we have that keep those. And even for the younger ones who may not had a chance to know them, they kind of pick up and like felt like, okay, I know I wasn't around like that or I was young, but it seems like I know this person because y'all constantly
Mhm.
speak on them, and then they everything kind of intertwines and their hearts become connected. So just gotta keep living with the good memories, and just move forward. And you know tonight's subject, it could tie into that as well. Wearing that behind the mask. Let's be honest. Some of us got a mask on that we think that it's not penetratable or like it's not gonna go nowhere. And I often say, shit, whether it's in the summer, you'll sweat that shit off. It'll start peeling. And in the wintertime, it'll crack up. It'll start cracking. And then eventually layers and it'll start peeling, it'll start coming off. So, it's time to talk about uncovering those hidden insecurities. And like I said in the intro, 85% of us have insecurities. Um,
Mhm.
Depending on how you look at it, before we came on, Hurt mentioned like some people it might be weight, might be your weight. It could be a physical feature. Um, Shit, if you think about in the academic world, it could be reading or not being able to read that well. And you put in situations. We see that manifested in schools a lot of times where kids
Mhm.
act up because they can't read and they're afraid to read because people are going to make fun of them and stuff like that. And that's how a lot of issues come about because of people insecurities. And if you hit that sensitive spot, then all hell will be ready to break out. So that's the importance of having these conversations. And no matter how old you are, sometimes you haven't faced it, and you can't you can't run away from it. As the great Jay-Z said, don't run away from problems, run to it. You got to run to it. You got to meet it head on, especially if you want to get better and improve. And don't be one to say I'm too fucking old to I'm 50 something now. I am the way I am. That's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah,
That probably is a poor attitude because sometimes when you're at your best, you make other people better.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm gonna tell you what, people. Since this is gonna be a truncated show for me because they got me working at night, I compiled the list and I got just added one. So I'm now with 19 different things that people struggle with, and I did it alphabetically. Um, so I'm gonna start with A. I'm gonna throw a couple out there, and I'm gonna talk about them: addiction, adequacy, and age. Now, most of us that listen to this podcast, or most of you who tune into this podcast, are in the age demographic that David and I are, which is in our 50s. And some people wonder, should I be dating? Some men wonder, what is the age range of young girls that I could date? We always see this, older men should be dating younger women, but it's okay for older women to date younger men. Do you struggle with something like that? Is that potentially a concern of yours if you're my age, 52, and you see a young chippy that's in her mid 20s, if you show up to a family function with her, somebody gonna question you. If you show up to a work outing with her, is somebody gonna question you? Are you scared enough to do that, or does that kind of make you just feel uncomfortable? You start to be self-conscious. You looking around. You saying, "All right, who's gonna say something to me?" Or when you get back to the office, because holidays are coming up, some of us are gonna have Christmas parties, employee Christmas parties. Are you gonna have to field the million and one questions from your coworkers, or are you gonna tell your coworkers, mind the business that pays you? You gonna be like the wolf. I got an NDA. Ain't none of your business what's going on here. Mind yours. So that's just that for the age. Adequacy. Are you enough? Are you enough for yourself? Are you enough for your mate? Are you enough for your friends, your family? Do people always say you coming up short? You never show up when the moment is required. You shrink, you too small. A la LeBron James, when they compare him to Michael Jordan, they say, "Oh, when the moment get big, he shrink. He don't stand up. He can never be the GOAT." Is that your perception of him? Was that his perception of him? Don't know. And this one, addiction. First of all, let me take my hat off to all the people, particularly those who have or dealt with substance abuse. That's for a lot of people, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or any other addiction that a lot of people have, because those are the first ones that we tend to talk about. But addiction comes in many forms, and we don't know if we ourselves have one because it might be normalized to us. But when we step among different companies, we turn around and we self inventory. We say, "Am I the only one that does that?" This is why people tend to flock with people they have a lot in common with, so they don't feel out of place, so they don't feel inadequate. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to throw out there just to get the ball rolling.
Right. And those, that was a nice way to break it down. And when you look at the alphabet and kind of come up with adequacy, addiction, and that's part of some of the things that I wanted to address. So we'll piggyback off of each other on this.
Mhm.
So one of the things insecurity drive behaviors due to various psychological emotional factors. So here are some of the causes of insecurity driven behaviors: fear, rejection, or abandonment; low self esteem or self doubt; three, past traumas or experiences;
Mhm.
social comparisons and competition; five, fear of failure or success; six, lack of confidence or self trust; uh, perfectionism or unrealistic expectations; uh, childhood experiences or upbringing. So that's eight solid ones right there. The fear of rejection or abandonment. We talked about that with the attachment theories. The one that um, when your moms drop you off at granny's house and you're there for like 4 or 5 days and mom then got ghosts because she chasing that silver bullet maybe with this guy, and you're a little baby. All you know is your mom. Eh, well, your family members, but now all of a sudden, the baby breaks out in tantrums when the mother leaves because in their head they don't know if you're coming back because you have left for 4 or 5 days, and they're like, what the hell? They used to sleeping under you, used to your scent, feeling your skin, and all of that stuff, and now they're in a safe place, but they feel abandoned. So that connects when you get older. So you'll have women or men that say it could, and it don't always got to be a woman. It could be a man that, and you're a woman and you work a job and your job requires you to go away for 4 or 5 days. He done lost his damn mind.
Mhm.
he done lost his damn mind, or vice versa. Like, oh, you're not on no business trip. You must be with somebody else.
Yeah.
You're not coming back here. Insecurities. Uh, insecurities. And then the fact of fear of rejection, where some people don't want to make the next move or don't want to apply for certain jobs because they don't think they're good enough or
Mhm.
they're afraid. So a lot of times opportunities pass them by. And if we think about dating, it could be a woman, she made eye contact with you. She giving you
Mhm.
all the hints. She likes you. She done told a couple people like, I think he is so handsome and all. Your ass scared. You fumble every time, don't know what to say, or whatever the case is, because you're afraid to make the next move. And after a while, she said, I didn't gave him enough hints. I didn't did enough things. I come by his office a couple times out of the day. Um, I've even, offered him lunch and this or that, and he still ain't said shit. The reason why, because that person has fear. He
Mhm.
doesn't want to make a move, even though it's plain and clear, because he's afraid that he may get rejected. But the
Yeah.
signs are there. So, obviously, the low self esteem and self doubt, how that plays a part. Like if your esteem is jacked up, you just you probably don't feel like you could do anything right, and you always gonna be battling that. And I can remember uh, when I started college, and I probably told this story before, and I remember it was a nun, Sister John Francis, and we took a computer class, and it was in the summertime. So actually, like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after I graduated from high school, I had to go to NUOP, the kind of HEOP program at Now University for students that was disadvantaged academically and financially. So, but I had earned like Regents credits in math, so they placed me in a computer science class, and I was just like kind of struggling in that class, and like I don't know shit about this computer stuff, and I just remember some of the terminology, RAM. It was like compute programming when they had the AS400, them long printed sheets that used to print off
Yeah,
and all
buddy.
of that stuff. So I'm like, and one day after class, she stopped me and she was like, uh, David, she was like, kind of like you need to believe in yourself more. She said, I keep seeing your hand, it goes halfway up, then it goes down. Cause I would be like, it would start up, then I would like down. Then she was like, you need to keep it up and you need to go. She said, always go with your first thought when in doubt. She said, because more than likely, you know the answer. And she's like, you have to have better belief in yourself. And she was right, because I was struggling with that. Also, I was struggling like, did I even belong here as a black
That's a
man
good
on that
question. I was
institution?
about to say. Yep.
At that institution with all the Caucasians, the Jesuit population, and I'm like, do I even belong here? But she saw something in me and kept working with me to the point that my classmates were like, yo, like what's going on, man? Every time you always the last one to come to lunch. You stay back with Sister John. I said, see, while y'all talking, I said, I'm already prepped for the test, because she was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is what's going to be on here. She wouldn't give me the answer. She's like, but I want you to prepare for this. And then they're like, oh, well, what did she say? What did she say? I'm like, oh, mind your business, whatever. Since y'all want to think I'm sleeping with the nun, uh, but she just, she was amazing. And she picked up that fast, like, he's struggling. And I'm gonna reach out and say something to him. So that's just one of the things. It's It's a lot that, but we have to get to that point to be able to admit certain things and be able to admit that, yeah, I struggle with this. So that's one. I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, man. For T, I got truth. Do you embrace it or not? Accountability. And what you just heard Dave talked about was just that. In order for him to be able to be helped by the nun or the professor, he had to acknowledge a fact about himself. Now he could have told his professor, "I'm not struggling. There's just some things that I have a question, but you know how people can do. Just nah, I'm not gonna do that because I can do this and I can do that, and all of a sudden, especially academically, you find yourself in a situation where you got to ace the final because you didn't do well during the semester because you didn't accept the help that somebody was giving that they saw you may have needed. So that's a real thing. Um, he mentioned attachment styles. Now that's something. Attachment styles has always been something people have talked about, but I personally have kind of dismissed it because I'm a secure attachment. What I've come to find out. But there's some people, as David gave with the example of the mother and child. There are some people that I'm sorry, I said I'm a secure attachment. I think that's what it is. I have to go back and research all this stuff just to make sure that when I'm speaking about it, I'm actually speaking correctly. But there are people who are they're not secure. I believe that's what it is, and we call them clingy in relationships. They're clingy. They say, "No, I'm clingy." That's why. So I would tell people, look, if you want to know more about yourself, more about people, how they relate, and more importantly, why they relate, go study attachment styles. It cannot hurt you to know about them. They exist in your familiar life, your professional life, and people that you encounter on the street. We always hear about the difference between New York City people versus Southern people versus Midwest people versus people on the West Coast. We always hear that New York is a fast paced place. I couldn't live there, especially for people in the South. And some people from up north to say, nah, they just slow, man. They don't, they're not as intelligent. You hear all kinds of tropes being bandied about between people of different geographic regions. So all of that comes into play when we talk about attachment styles. Are you secure attachment, unsecured? I think it is. So those things matter. Now they matter to some people more than they do others. Because me, I'm just like, yeah, all right, you going where? I'll meet you there. Can somebody put you in a room full of strangers at a function, and you're gonna be okay? Especially if you are a partner to somebody and like I mentioned earlier, at an employee party. Does that person need to sit there and babysit you? Or can they go off and have fun with other people and you're going to be okay? Are you going to get all kinds of anxiety? Your anxiety going to rise up. You're going to start saying, okay, where is he? I, I, or I need a drink. We're talking about addiction. You need that cup in your hand, just a little bit of libation just to mellow yourself out. See, we don't think of it as addiction like that, but addiction is anything that can help you perform, anything that can help you get along. See, we don't look at those things like that. I'll say it again. So when somebody points something out to you about yourself, do you dismiss it or do you acknowledge it? Or, and here's another one, are you aware? We have some things about ourselves that we are completely unaware of. Somebody will say something, no, 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 that's not true. And they'll ask another person, they'll say, yeah, I've seen that. And people will say, well, I don't care what y'all say. Hey, they just pointing something out to you. It may be good, it may be bad, it may be indifferent. But I always tell people, you can't say anything about me that I am unaware of. Now, just because you pointed out and you say it's a problem doesn't mean it's a problem for me. Because a lot of people will say, well, you shouldn't be like this or you should be like that. And the first thing I ask them is, why? Oh, because. No, 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 no. There's no because. Give me a why I should change. Oh, because it would make you more likable. People want to be around you. I say, what makes you think I want more people around me? Because a lot of people call me antisocial. To which I reply, I am not. They say, yes, you are. And they'll ask, and I've got this with my brothers, and they'll ask my brothers, they say, yeah, yeah, you do that. I said, yes, I know I do that, but that doesn't make me antisocial. And they'll say, what do you mean? Yes, it does. I said, no, 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 no. I said, understand, I'm selectively social. I said, not everybody gets to be around me. Not everybody gets to partake in what's Herbert Lewis. Sorry if that offends your good senses, but hey, I believe in keeping some things private. I believe in keeping people out of my business, which is why I don't post about my life on social media the way some other people do. They say, oh, you being secretive. No, simply put, it ain't none of your business.
And as I go down the list, we talk about this often. Childhood experiences or
Mm-hmm.
upbringing plays a big role. Uh, it's something that should be discussed to talk about different childhood experiences. Um, and a lot of times people say, well, I like to. I guess it's the way that you have to. Well, good conversation, different things that come out. So you don't have to be sitting there having lunch or dinner with somebody and say, "Oh, tell me about your childhood."
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of awkward. But it could be you're sharing something about, hey, like Herb said, the holiday season coming up. Like, yeah, I remember we had this tradition going on when we used to all, meet at my grandmother's house and we would do this, we would do that. And then you can always say to someone, what traditions did y'all have?
Mm-hmm.
And if they, I don't want to talk about it, or they get kind of defensive, or you remember 55% their body language, it kind of changes, or they become kind of closed. You could pick up on that and say, maybe they never had any experiences like that, or I saw that got to them, and I was really trying to strike up a good conversation, reminiscing about the good old days and what we used to do, and they were kind of, you know, kind of closed, um, kind of closed minded with their answer, and really didn't give me much. A couple more of those conversations, you'll be like, yeah, something going on. Another example, you could be talking about, oh, it's my mother or my father's birthday. Um, what did you do to celebrate your mother's or dad's birthday, or some of the things you did? And if they, again, don't really want to give you anything, you can probably pick up that
Yeah.
they wasn't too thrilled about their childhood experiences and the memories. So that may be something you may say, I don't know, like that could be a red flag to you. But on the reverse side, they could be someone like, okay, it's time for me to get this baggage off, and they could dump everything out on you, and you could be one to say, you know what, it's okay. We gonna work through this. I'm gonna help
Mm-hmm.
you out. We gonna
Mm-hmm.
be all right. That's okay. It happens. So it depends on that individual, but certainly childhood experiences uh, means a lot, and you can learn a lot from it. So you can't shy away from it. And all too often on social media, you see people that got nothing to do with me. I don't ask nothing about in the past. That got nothing to do with me. And then you wonder why when certain things come up. Uh, it probably was something that was related to their childhood experiences, or again, like we talked about last week,
Mhm.
some of their values that was introduced in their life or some things that they picked up on. So it's there's so much to it that I don't think people really look into or think about when they're, in conversations with people.
And I'm gonna pick right up where David left off. Shout out to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, of course, BGS. They always talk about emotional labor, particularly when it comes to men hearing women dump their day, their stories of trauma on men. Be aware when somebody might be trauma dumping on you. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because, in order for someone to confide in you, and this is what they're doing, make no mistake about it, they trust you enough to do that. And that's an important feature because a lot of people have trust issues. They don't know who to trust because they've been burned so often, whether it's been by former lovers, co-workers, a number of people. Anybody is capable of taking trust and abusing it. So for them, it's hard to build bridges. It's hard to make and maintain friendships because they get comfortable and they want to start to unload on people. And like I said, it's not a good or it's not a bad thing. They just confident. They trust you. So that is huge, in terms of doing that. What was the other thing you said, Dave? You said something else. I got so drawn to emotional labor that I forgot about the rest.
Just childhood experiences and
Okay.
upbringing and stuff like that. How people could they don't have to ask direct questions like, "Oh, tell me about your childhood." It's ways that you could question people, and they could just be, or an organic conversation, and it just flows. It could be something you're talking about, and then you may say, I mentioned about Christmas holidays
Yeah.
traditions, and you would slide in. Did you have any traditions in your family? And then the person becomes guarded and
Yeah.
distant, and body language changes up. And so those are things you have to look out for.
Yeah. For me, as some of you probably know, or maybe you don't know, I don't celebrate the holidays. For me, the holidays are just another day. I'm looking at the calendar. Do I get paid time and a half when I go to work? No? Okay, doesn't matter to me. But there's a particular reason why I don't really get into holidays, other than the fact that I don't have kids. If I had kids, maybe I'd do things a little differently. But because I don't, I'm free to just blow them off. And I do make that known when I get a relationship with people who maybe do. When I was in foster homes when I was young, I didn't get a whole lot of gifts. So for me, the Christmas, I rang hollow. Didn't care. So around the time when I got to be about 18, 19, almost out of high school. Yes, almost out of high school because I graduated at 20. When I got to college, I was free. Didn't have to celebrate holidays, didn't have to be reminded of some of the Christmases, all of that stuff. Because for me, the memories were never great because sometimes I wasn't with family, I was in the foster home. And it was just like, okay, I don't, I don't get to wake up with the whole Christmas Carol thing, to open up presents under trees. Ah, fuck Christmas. That was, that was my attitude. Something like fuck Christmas. But that's something I've learned to acknowledge and understand about myself. So when people talk about it and they ask me why, I'm comfortable enough to not poo-poo it, dismiss it, and I say, hey, look, I said for me, it holds no weight. For me, Christmas is every day. I'm always looking to help somebody. So for me, Christmas for me is giving. What can I do for someone to make their day? We have people walking around that say they've lost faith in humanity. Well, you ever ask them why? Most people say, no, I don't care. Why not just probe a little bit? You might make a friend. You, you might make a connection. You never know where your connections come from. You never know what seeds you plant now germinate, yield, and grow fruit in the future. So plant those seeds. Be open to being receptive to information because no information can hurt you. It can only help you, regardless if that information is bad. If somebody gives you some bad news, okay, you're armed. I always say we use the GI Joe axiom: knowing is half the battle. And as long as you know the rules of engagement, you can play in any game. And actually, you might win more often than you lose. But if you don't, you certainly don't have a chance to win. So childhood trauma, all of that stuff, it comes back, especially later in our adult years when you find the perfect mate, but all of a sudden you realize that I got to come clean about something and I'm not comfortable. And I think this relationship might have a chance to blossom and grow into something that I really want. But because I didn't clear up the childhood drama and trauma that I had, it's kind of rearing its ugly head now. She wants me to go, or he wants me to go to counseling, but I don't feel comfortable. Now what? You sat on this problem for 20, 30 years, and now all the things that happen, then you got to deal with now. And you say, it's like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to drudge up those old memories. I can't do it. And if the person who you're talking to is the right person, they're gonna say, hey, look, I'm not going anywhere. I will help you through this. But you have to take that first step or the second step, because the first step is in acknowledging. It's like they say with alcoholics or narcotics anonymous. The first thing you have to do is admit you have a problem. You have an addiction. And from there, you start to build. I think it's a 12 or 13 step process program. You can build, but you have to acknowledge. It goes back to what I was saying about the, unaware. If it's latent, you probably never even consider it, and won't consider it until that situation rears its head, and all of a sudden now you're forced to confront it, deal with it, or just deal with just like says on Jason Black says, either you deal with your problems or your problems will deal with you.
True, true, true. Let's see what else we got out of here. Kind of touched on all of them: past traumas, experiences. Um, so, and I know Herb probably got more with the alphabet,
Oh
but I'm
yeah.
just gonna introduce insecurity. How insecurities influence your behaviors. Now, remember this. And I often talk about this. There's thoughts. Usually, you think about something. It's in your head. Then you start having feelings about it. Whether those thoughts make you happy, sad, indifferent, frustrated, anything. It could be a gamut of different things. But then, after the feelings, then comes the behaviors. Behaviors start coming out um, once you start feeling about certain things. So when you going through those hidden insecurities, here are some of the behaviors: defensiveness or aggression, uh, people pleasing or codependency, avoidance or withdrawal, overachievement or overcompensation, self sabotage or destructive habits, manipulation or control, passive aggressive behavior. And we talked about this later. earlier. Addictive behavior, another solid 8. Go
Yeah.
ahead, hurry up. Have
Um,
at it.
like I said earlier, those things are laden. So what happens is you start to self sabotage. Somebody will do something and you want it, whatever it is. And I'm not here to say what it is. People will say, you know what? I can't do this. So they start looking for reasons to push people away because they get uncomfortable. And this is why and I'm sure somebody's out there has heard this. It's not you, it's me. Sometimes that is the truth. It is not you, it is them. They're struggling with something. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to tell you about it because they're afraid of the way that they may look. So, can you bridge that gap? Can you help them? Or more importantly, do they want to be helped? Because if somebody doesn't want to be helped, then no matter what you do, they're going to reject you. They're going to reject the help outright because they're comfortable where they are. And if somebody's comfortable with where they are, then you have to allow them to stay there. It's like my boy used to say years ago when we had certain discussions. He would say, when the pain of being the same gets too great, then you'll change. And I wholeheartedly believe that because we used to talk about me not knowing my father, me not ever having met my father. And I would say, you know what? It's not a concern. It's not something I've ever considered. It's not something I'm going to burden my mother with because I know how she is or how she was. I said, you know what? I'm cool. The situation is what the situation is. And if that is an unknown aspect of my life, then this juncture of my life, I'm cool with it. Now, some other people who've never walked that path, they might sit around and say, I could never. I, I would feel so incomplete. Well, as my family's constructed, it is not a problem. There's far too many of us for me to feel incomplete. I get around my family, we laugh, we yuck it up. There's nothing but joy. From the stories we had as kids to the discussions, the heated debates, the games that we play. I don't have time to worry about not having my my biological father around me. I look at all the men that have come into my life that have taught me something that I've learned something from. I'm like, man, listen, you know how many fathers I have? I can't count on. I need a calculator. I got to start breaking out a calculator to tally up the number of fathers I have. So, fellas, women too. For women, it's different. I'll address the women in a moment. Fellas, if you don't know who your biological or you've never had the opportunity to speak to your biological father and you think you're up for the conversation regardless of your age, this is something we talked about 2 maybe 3 weeks ago. What do parents do that adversely harms their children? It's one of them. So fellas, if you think you're mature enough to handle that discussion, sit your mother down and say, hey, look, I'm not here to demonize you. I'm not here to put any decisions you made in terms of you and my father under the examination scope. I just want to know who he is, where he is, so I can go talk to him so I can hear what he says about your relationship. Because I know what you're saying, but I want to hear his side. And for some people, that could be cathartic. And that's what a lot of people need. They need to be able to release, they need to be able to let that tension go. So when they sit with people, they can be more themselves. Because a lot of people, if you ask them, who are you? And this God damn it! Every time I something in the goddamn book, gotta get the book done. If you ask the average person who they are, guess what you're going to get as an answer? You're going to get their education, their kids, maybe a wife, all those things that have nothing to do with who they are. You're not going to get to know anything about their character, what drives them, what motivates them, what they dislike, until you actually pry it out of them. And this is why I always tell people, hey, be yourself. And if you don't know who you are intrinsically, internally, hey, you might want to find out. Because the more you know about yourself, the more comfortable you get in any circumstance, in any situation, to the point where nothing bothers you. You are literally the epitome of cool.
All right, all right. She made a couple comments. That's one of the reasons I'm Santa for my kids, not really having a Christmas. What's up,
Mhm.
family? Big Shank. What's going on? Big host, cousin, family, Big Shank. What's good? Um, so when I go back and I look at the behaviors and the defensiveness or the aggression, remember I talked about certain questions, the woman talking about her childhood experiences during the holidays, and the guy becomes defensive. Then sometimes, as you go on, there's a certain level of aggression that may come out, and that could be sometimes alcohol induced that makes them become aggressive. But more than likely, it's an insecurity that they feel like that person may have power over them, and probably on the mental aspect. So they act out physically. Well, I'm bigger than her, whatever. So I'm gonna lay hands on her. I feel like she's trying to disrespect me or show me off, or or certain things that the aggression becomes out of control. They, in worst case scenario, they put their hands on women, and it's vice versa. Nowadays, shit, I guess
Hmm.
there's some
Hmm.
women beating man ass.
Yeah.
I don't, I wouldn't want to take that L, but in certain cases, I mean, I guess if you're a man and you say, I didn't even do anything, I just let her hit me. She dotted my eyes and did whatever.
Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, guess you got to defend yourself and protect yourself at all times, no matter who it is. But in certain cases, when people probably feel, and if you ever notice, like in conversations, when people lean toward aggressive nature, probably that person is getting, and it's just a regular conversation, probably that person is getting the best of them.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, oh, yeah.
and that's, and that's their only comeback. Like, oh yeah, you keep talking, I'm gonna fuck you up or do this or do that. And that person, they calm, cool, and they just throwing little jabs, but your ass ready for the knockout blow because um, you can't take it. So that lets you know right there, there's some insecurities going on with that person when they lean toward the the aggressive side. Uh, People pleasing, a codependency. Hmm. Interesting, because I think some people love to people please, probably because they don't. They probably never felt comfortable in their skin or felt accepted. So once they get an in with certain people, they want to people please. They want to do things. These people can talk you to freaking run it down, running across the Brooklyn Bridge naked. As long as you pleasing them, you're okay with it. But that's a hidden insecurity because shit, after a while you're supposed to be your own person. Nah, that don't feel right to me. I'm not doing it. No, I'm not hanging out with y'all tonight. No, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing that. And I could say we did a lot. I did a lot. We did a lot growing up. And I was the quiet person in the crew. But certain things I wasn't going to do. Now, they would talk shit. They would say whatever the case is. So I'm going to take y'all back to the story. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I ain't going to mention no names who was a part of it. I'm going to take y'all back to the story. So it was this place. Sir Tice was good. Shout out
Yeah,
to the
what's up,
Detroit
man?
Lions. I know
Yeah,
you're
man, your
feeling pretty
boys doing
good.
work.
It was this place. It was Andrew's wig shop. And I know my mother listening. Maybe she sleep on this part, but she didn't heard this story before. But so we found out that it was a hole in the roof. And if you went on the roof, you can go down. And in this wig shop, they had back in our days, the press on letters, t-shirts, the Cadillac hats, the BMW hats, the fake gazelles. Uh,
I can hear you. You can be heard.
can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So they had all this stuff. And so my crew, we decided to come up with a master plan. They like he's snitching, but that was so long ago. My fault, fellas. I'm not
The
saying y'all
statute,
names.
the statute of limitations is up.
Yeah,
You ain't got to worry about it.
yeah. So they decided and said, "Yo, we gonna hit that joint like 6 in the morning." And I'm thinking like, what the fuck? I'm gonna get up and go out the house at 6 in the morning and the door shut, and my mother ain't gonna be like, hey, where you going? Uh, but I thought they were just talking. I was like, they ain't about to do nothing. It ain't about to go down. Sure enough, I think I got up to pee, and I happened to look out the window. I'm like, oh shit, two of them came. So I hopped back in the bed and turned my back to the window and positioned myself in a fetal position like I was knocked out. And I heard one of my friends like, he knocked out. He knocked out in there. They knocking on the window and all that. I'm like, these dudes for real. And they was like, ah man, he fucking sleep. Let's go. So across the street was somebody, was another one who said he agreed to it. And I said, nah, I know he ain't gonna come out the house. So I got up, peeped out the window, and they went next door. I said, I know he not coming out. His mother, Jehovah Witness, and all in the church. I know it's just no way that he's gonna come out. Sure enough, I looked, his ass came out. So now it's three of them, and it was me who didn't feel secure about doing that because I was like, I got too much to lose. I'm not about to do that. I agreed with it, but I guess the people pleased. I went along with it, said I was going to do it, but I always knew I had that voice of uh, criticism in my head with my grandmother, my mother voice that like, yo, you better not do that. You better not. So I didn't do it. So they went on, they did it, they pulled it off. When I finally got up, it was like in the summer, right before school. Oh, they had garbage bags full of shit. And, and they were bragging like, yeah, we came to you, but your ass was knocked out, sleeping good like a baby. I said, yes, I was. I said, yes, I was. And they kept on bragging and bragging what they got, how they gonna sell this at school, and I'm not gonna get part of the cut because I was. Then I finally said, because I was secure who I was, and I finally told them, I don't give a fuck what y'all got in there. in his bag. I said, anything I got in that bag, I can get brand new. And they kind of looked at each other. And one of them said, he ain't lying. He ain't lying. So that kind of conversation, but it was the fact that, in a sense, I didn't do it because I was a little scared, but also I was secure in my decision. Like, I ain't doing it. I mean, I could have just simply told them the never, like, I'm not down, but I decided to went along with it because I didn't think they were going to do it, but they pulled it off. But you know what happened? Like a few days later, well, I guess the owner decided he must have patched up that roof or something, or either no, he didn't. People were able to get in, but he put an alarm on the. It wasn't no alarm before. He put an alarm on the system, and a couple other people heard about it. They went in the roof, but this time they had an alarm on it, and somebody ended up losing their life. They panicked and went through the glass, ran through the glass, and got cut up and all the
Yeah.
stuff. Then they ran and they end up, uh, passing away. I always used to think that would have probably been me. That would have been me. That alarm when it went off, I would have just like, just tried to run through the glass and all that. So sometimes you got to be secure in your decisions you make. Yeah, sometimes they could end up being fatal. And in that case, I had a voice of reason in my head, criticism that prevented me. I mean, I took a lot of backlash because I was didn't go, but then I shut it down and said, all that shit y'all got in that bag, I could get on my own. Well, I couldn't get it. My family would have bought it for me, but that kind of killed that conversation, and they shut the hell up after that. It got off my case.
Yeah,
Sorry for the long story.
no, it's an important story because I mean I could pick from a couple things, but one of the things that brings out is the one is intentions. Had every intention to go, but you was like, nah, I ain't doing that. Not necessarily because you didn't think it was wise, moral, or whatever the case is. He was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I love me enough that I'm not going to put myself at risk. And those are two of the things I have. So in doing that, like you said about later when somebody else did it, they end up losing their life over it. So sometimes we have to love ourselves enough to realize, even though we committed to something, that's something we committed to, we can't follow through. It's not good. It's not bad. It's self awareness. And a lot of people lack self awareness. And when you do lack self awareness, you put yourself in a situation to where not only you can harm yourself, but you can do damage to other people. Case in point, you know you're not a good driver. And you know that when it snows or the road might be a little slick, you're an even worse driver. So your crew want to go out, they drink, and you say, you know what? I'll be the designated driver. And you know the weather's supposed to be bad. And they look at you to say, oh no, nah, man, you can't drive in the winter. You hell. You a marginal driver when the streets are dry. We don't want you. No. You convince them that you'll be all right. So they go out. Y'all go out. They get popped. They're relying on you to drive them home, and you run the car into a ditch. Now, nobody gets seriously hurt. I mean, some bumps, some bruises.
I know it's
But
not funny, but I'm just saying.
about $3,000 worth of damage to the car, front end banged up. Tie rod might be bent, tire flat. They got to get towed. They come back the next day and say, "Oh man, We told you not to drive. You know you can't drive. Man, but y'all was drunk. Like, we could have took a taxi home for the damage you did to the car. Well, I didn't know. Yeah, you did. You just tried to shut that shit down because you wanted to be the man. You didn't love yourself enough to say, you know what? I'm not gonna put myself or my people in harm's way. And let me circle back to what I said about men and their fathers, because I unfortunately omitted the women. For women, that plays out different because Dave talked about women putting their hands on men. That's one of the reasons why, is because they struggle with being able to identify with how to release emotions to a male. So if they grew up in there, saw their mother mimicking that, or saw their mother doing that, they're gonna mimic that behavior. So if her mother was quick to be physical with a man, that woman is gonna do that. There's a story, and I can't remember the female comedian's name. She was on the Shannon Sharp show, Club Shay Shay, pardon me. And she talked about she had never met her father. She was struggling to get her career going. And she landed a gig with Cat Williams, going on tour with him. And she was sitting down there fielding calls the night that they were supposed to open the show. And he asked her, what's going on? She said, I gotta bury my father. He said, you what? She said, I gotta bury my father. I'm trying to come up with the money. She said, Cat Williams walked away, came back with a stack of money, said, go bury your father. Now, this woman had never met her father, didn't know him. Went and picked him up, I think she said, from Ohio and drove back to Florida with him. This is before he died. On the way, she had to change his diaper. He was diabetic. She pulled into a gas station or a pharmacy to get the prescription filled, but she didn't have the money. The pharmacist felt bad for her, gave her a script to get her and her father um, to the point where they could get situated, which was a 30-day script. And when her father died, she ended up bridging the gap that they had in terms of him not ever being there, to the point where she had no problems speaking about her father in glowing terms because she established a relationship with him. Because he was on his deathbed confessing. She said, Dad, you don't have to do that. I know you now. And that's all I needed to know. Sometimes that's all that's necessary. But like I said, you have to be willing to take that step. And more often than not, what most people will find out, especially women, is the story that you created in your head is not going to match reality. But we allow those stories that we concoct, women more so than men, but men do it, to run with us, and they rule us to the point where we say, oh, wow, why did I think this was going to turn out worse than what it was? If I'd have known this, I'd have did this sooner. That's the first break in being mature. It's taking the bull by the horns. You may have heard that cliche before, you may not have, but take the bull by the horns. Don't sit there and allow things to always be dictated to you. Sometimes you got to dictate, and you find out more often than not that when you are aggressive with certain things, you take the lead, you're gonna be rewarded. So that that comes to what David's story. That comes to being lovable, and that comes to understanding that just because something is there, you do not have to accept it. And you'll find out that more often than not, like you said, his grandmother's voice, you hear that conscience speaking, you listen to your conscience. Rarely will your conscience lead you the wrong way. It's a song called By the Animals. Don't let me be misunderstood. Some of us are misunderstood because our intentions are well, but the results sometimes are disastrous. So,
Another thing, as far as behavior, avoidance or withdrawal.
mhm.
We know that certain people avoid certain situations at all costs. They withdraw from certain things, and it's a part of their insecurity. Uh, Again, I think Herb mentioned it earlier. It's the holiday season that couples. Oh, babe, I got this Christmas party to go to, and or my one of my coworkers, she having a little get together, um, and everybody's coming with their other half. I would like you to come. You don't know. You don't have no conversation. Shit, you barely work or just not schooled on anything. You may be all about sports or whatever, but never read up on anything else. Their husbands may be or other halves may be corporate. Uh, talks about talking about politics, talking about crypto stocks and different things, and that's just not your thing. And you got a grave concern, like, how am I gonna fit in with this conversation? Probably end up being it could end up being like we said, point number one, being on the defensive or aggressive because she's trying to force your hand. Like, damn, you never go nowhere with me. Why do I have to always go somewhere by myself? Like I don't got no body, but they all know I have somebody in the house. But you always avoiding stuff. Like you need to come, or I swear this shit. I'm not going into 2025 dealing with this bullshit. Now you big mad, like, oh, you think you about to do this or that, all because of these motherfuckers at this party? And it's a big, big to do. But I think she just wants you to be by her side. So
Yeah,
this is him. He's here. He's not make believe. He's a real person. But your ass worried about them other guys and the things that they do, and you worried about the conversation, and you try to avoid it. You'll come up with everything. Your ass is your ass know the party coming up. You'll get into an argument and have to stay at your mom's house or sister house for 2 or 3 days
self sabotage.
to
Yeah, yep,
yeah to avoid everything. You see how this stuff work? We might be laughing about it, but this shit is real, and
yeah,
this is what some people do just for to avoid certain situations.
yeah, yeah. You know what? This. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So women, when somebody's totally reluctant and you keep, pushing, and like, oh, you need to come, you need to come, you might need to fall back and say, yeah, maybe he's not comfortable, maybe he's not confident in who he is, and he feels like he has nothing because you said, oh, Jennifer husband, he works for some Fortune 500 company, and this person, he's a resident doctor, and you throwing all these positions out,
Yeah,
and he can't match that, and he's going to avoid it. And the more you push on it, the more you lean on him, he may become aggressive because you're making him feel real uncomfortable. Hey, Daphne, what's good? So that's that. I know, Herb, you probably getting close to the time, but you can
oh
follow back
no,
up with that
I still
point.
got about, yeah. No, diversity. Are you a stick in the mud? David mentioned something too, and I believe he's touched on this on a prior podcast. Diversity. Let me deal with that first. Are you able to go out and function among different companies, different people? They mentioned the inability to read, dyslexia. is a very real thing. Some people, they get through school with it. They're okay. But when it comes to functioning on their own or doing something different or taking in different information, they don't do well. So they manage to get through, let's say somebody's in their late 20s, mid to late 20s, they've managed to get through that and they've kept it hidden. They've been able to function. All of a sudden now somebody calls them a task. They get into a discussion. They had this individual say, read that. Tell me what that says. And all of a sudden that person can't do it. Next thing you know, words are exchanged. You got two men grappling on the floor because one didn't acknowledge his shortcomings because he thinks somebody's gonna make fun of him. And not failing to realize that, hey, he might be talking to a person that's overcome his dyslexia. And he can say, hey man, I understand. I was in that boat once upon a time too. If you want some help, let me know. I'm here for you. But sometimes we internalize things. We internalize things to the point that where we think somebody said something because we anticipated it that was never stated. Because I've seen this happen where two people be in a discussion and the discussion gets kind of contentious and the person is so laser focused on their own thoughts that they can't hear what the other person has said. Everybody else heard it, but this person didn't hear it. And next thing you know, they go off on a tangent and people say, well, where in the world did you get that from? Oh, that's what he said. No, that's not what was said. It is. I was sitting right here listening, and so was everyone else. But you're the only one who heard the statement phrased in the manner that you did. You got to relax. Sit down, take a breath before you stress yourself out and give yourself a heart attack. These things happen. So people, you have to be cognizant of the things that you do, and more importantly, why you do them. And if and if there's an issue, address the issue. And it's a problem, solve the problem. But don't let your insecurities get to the point where they start causing disharmony, disunion, and disruptions, like I was said that, among the people you with, the people who don't mean you no harm. They come in peace. Keep the peace.
Yeah. And a lot goes with that too. So when we talked about addictive behaviors, and sometimes when a person is put in a situation and it's a holiday party or something, they gonna lean to. They may they may go in with the drinks, may go in and figure like shit. I have to uh I have to do something to kind of hide this pain. And they may drink
Mm-hmm.
a little, go overboard. So now your mate is definitely embarrassed because you
Yeah.
didn't cut a
Oh, yeah.
damn fool. And you didn't drink up everything, got aggressive, ready to fight the people. Oh, this person was checking you out. Oh, you only brought me here to show that that all these other guys want to flaunt over you, and just a bunch of stuff going through your head because you're insecure. Eh, you didn't cut a fool, and now, man, it's probably no turning back. Cause for damn sure you ain't coming to another function again. But now you worried about shit. Is she gonna go there with somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you worried. You had your opportunity to step it up. You self sabotage. You used alcohol, drank up every goddamn thing you could,
Open bar and you
Yeah.
open.
You embarrassed the hell out of her. Now you worried. Now you shook.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to break it down to you all in different ways with personal experiences and different things that you can see like, shit, I see how this works. Real conversations, real talk. And some of the times as we talking about it, I say to myself, damn, that was an excellent point. Because you never look at stuff like this. You never think about it. And you never put it together. Many of us, or some of us, the only guide you have is with things that you grew up on or what you hear the pastor say,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Yep.
never decide to reach out and do any other type of research or get any other experiences from day-to-day conversations with people that you learn and grow. And so you're limited in your thought process. So you're kind of handicapped. And Herb always talking about what's in your toolbox. You ain't got shit in your toolbox. That shit decayed. That toolbox, you can't even open that shit up no more because you lost the key.
Yeah.
So you handicapped. So
Mm-hmm.
you wonder why you got hidden insecurities because you got a handicap.
And I'm gonna follow that up with O for original. Are you original or are you a copy? That could be lifestyle information, which Dave just spoke about. Do you have your own life experiences or are you somebody else? Do you have your own drummer you walk to? A lot of people struggle because they don't have an identity. So everything they do is predicated off of what they saw, you know, on TV, what they saw another guy do, what they heard somebody else do. They're afraid to step out of the box. David always talks about his style of clothing, and I'm going to use David as a perfect example. He dresses his own way. He has his own style. No matter what somebody says, he's like, yeah, look, I'm confident enough to pull this shit off. Get your own. Why you riding my coattails? Leave me the fuck alone. Go get your own shit. Go start your own band. I'm the drummer here. I'll set the pace. So people don't have the confidence to do that. Why? They're not original. They don't want to stand out. They want to fit in. They're afraid of getting that attention. People, especially men, I'm gonna give you a little bit of game, as they say. Be different. Stand out. Be the one in the crowd who might be wearing the loud colors, as they like to say. Or you wearing the pastels, everybody else wearing white. Be you. Do what makes you tick. Don't let somebody else dictate to you how you have to behave unless you're doing some shit that's fucked up. Then you might want to listen to people if they got your better interests are. But more often than not, a lot of people, they're afraid to be different. They may have gotten ridiculed as a younger person because they were different. I had a classmate, I'm not gonna shout him out. He always used to wear the Indian ties. He was the only brother in the school that wore Indian ties. And people will talk about it. Yo, man, that ain't a tie it is. It's an Indian tie. And he stuck to it. No matter what anyone said, what anyone might even think about it. That was his thing. And he never deviated from it. He stood out. And I don't know if they still do this, when we were in high school, in the yearbook, they always had the best dressed, most outspoken, class clown. Shout out to Black Ernie. Be original. And I'm not calling Ernie before anybody get it misconstrued or misunderstood. I'm saying Ernie stood out. because of his ability to make people laugh, and he's turned that into a lucrative career. That's why I'm shouting him out. I'm using him as an example. Be different, stand out, because you never know, somebody might like that, and you know that somebody who that somebody might be. It might be a potential mate. So while you busy trying to hide in the crevices, shrink in the background, nah, man, find a spotlight, command the spotlight, be original.
Yeah, and again, I brought it up numerous times. I said I would ask these kids, who is the top dog to the girls? Who is the best dressed person in the eighth grade? And this was last year. Couldn't answer it. Couldn't answer it. You know why? 'Cause everybody look alike. Got the same hairdo, the cruddies. Uh, the little nappy little bushes with the little, I don't know. Well, they call it the cruddy down here, Baltimore. And I'm like, damn, whatever happened to the nice waves? Get the waves flowing.
Yeah,
I had your little brush, and that shit would have them girls like, damn, like you got a different type of texture here. They don't want to do that. Everybody want to wear the same sneakers, the same, same everything. So y'all in competition with each other to sometimes get the same girl, but eventually, maybe not in middle school, but in high school, when she like a junior or a senior, and she could probably look back and say, I remember when we was in middle school, you was like that, but then you changed up. You got preppy on me.
hmm
You start wearing the nice glasses, start smelling good. Your watch game was on point. You were, they was still wearing this. You was wearing the wallabies. You was doing that. You didn't came up. She
yep,
liking you. Yeah, now you passed your permit test. You got your license. You able to have access to a vehicle. And these dudes still on the damn cheese. Uh, you're always in competition, whether you think so or not. And a lot of times people argue, I ain't compete with nobody. I ain't competing with nobody. You in competition. Best believe that.
yes, you
Best
are.
believe that.
Yeah, you are.
And for some of y'all women, I don't dress for men. I dress for myself. Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll go with that. We didn't ran that show back. I do things for myself. Okay.
Yeah, that's always funny how that turns out, because to that I ask women, if that's the case, then why don't you just wear a habit? I'm not doing that. Why? Y'all always talk about men are sexualizing women, and I heard this point. It was an excellent point that was when how it was made. But the first thing y'all want to do is you want to start putting on clothes that are ultra revealing, the skin tight. Hell, some of you wearing clothes that are see through, and you don't care because you claim you're wearing it for another woman. Well, why would another woman want to see your breasts? Why would she want to see your anatomy? A guy might, because that's what guys are attracted to. But you saying, unless her river flows that way, no pun intended, or maybe it's a double entendre. Who knows? I'm just saying, y'all gotta let me know what you're doing, because some of y'all here, no pun intended, or maybe it's a pun intended, y'all some switch hitters. So we don't know if you're down low, under the covers in the closet. We are you insecure that you may not be enough for him? Because we always talk about male insecurity when it comes to sexuality, but we don't talk about female insecurity. Is that A cup you got enough for him? You're wearing a padded bra because you want that A to be a B. Is is that caboose enough? And a thighs thick enough? Is your size 3 winning a day? Or you want to put on some weight? Maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to be more physically attracted to a man and you don't know how to do that. Well, hey, talk to Ron because I think Ron will be back in a couple of weeks. He's on a little bit of a hiatus. Ron can help you with that. You want to make the first
Yeah,
move?
somebody
Ron can help you with that.
got to. You gotta have the longest eyelashes. You gotta do this. Gotta have the longest nails. You doing, but you're only doing it for yourself. I mean, I never bought into that, and I'm not saying when I get dressed, I'm like, oh, I'm getting dressed for this women. But if you're going out, I don't want no fucking dude looking at me. Uh, that's for sure. Uh, because if you doing it for yourself, then keep your ass in the house.
Yeah, honestly.
Keep your ass in the house. I mean, we gotta be real with certain things, and it doesn't mean you're like trying to attract attention from all types of men. It may only be one specific person that he may not be there or whatever the case is. But let's be real and not say, "Oh, I get dressed for myself." Then you just play dress up
Yeah.
in your house and you keep your ass at home. And you're like, "Oh, I like the way I look. Oh, my ass banging in the mirror." And that's that.
Ah!
And just leave it at that. It's no need to go out and spend extra money like that. That argument really doesn't make any sense. But that's for another conversation for another day. And I know Herbert's getting close to your time. I'm gonna honor that time,
Yeah.
but we never done with these conversations. Whatever, it's something for y'all to think about. Any closing comments you have?
No, man. Hey, insecurities are part of life. They really are. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having them. The problem, and I say problem, not issue, the problem is knowing you have them, knowing you want to address them, and you don't. And then you wonder why, when you get to be older, you're still dealing with the same problems. Address, resolve them to the point where you can live with them and they are no longer a hindrance. And as always, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Are you taking a brick out of the wall? I'm sorry, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. And are you taking a brick in the wall? Are you putting a brick in the wall? I'm messing up my own closing statement. God damn. Are you putting a brick in the wall of conversation? Or are you taking one out? Growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Just like the plant, it keeps growing. I want you to keep growing too.
All
Godspeed.
right.
See you next time.
Thank you for that. And again, this whole conversation, like Herb said, securities, insecurities, you got to face them. You can't run away from them. You'll never get better. You got to deal with it. We have them. And, in certain things, it's a work in progress. But when you admit that you have one, because, hey, nobody's Arthur Fonzarelli around here that, oh, we can't say this, we can't do that. Uh, we have to face these issues. And again, we always talk about being uncomfortable. If you're insecure, you're uncomfortable. And how you get comfortable is dealing with that. So remember, deal with it, admit it, talk to the people that's close to you, and instead of everybody poking their chests out like they got all the answers, we don't. We all struggle, and we're all work in progress. And as long as we can admit that and be open to share that with people that we trust, then that makes us a better individual. So with that said, we out. On to the next one. Never know what we have in store for you next week. But everybody be safe, be well, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
All right, people. Y'all take care. See you next week.